Hello and welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. You are listening to and watching the Review Crew, and I am your host, Brian, the conscience of Cleveland Donlan. Well, we are certainly in crunch time, and no, we do not just mean the crunch of freshly fallen snow underfoot. The lights are getting to their brightest, and under them, some are shining and some are struggling to see balls getting hurled straight at them. Now, before we go any further, remember, like, subscribe, follow the crew. You can find us on X, on Instagram. We are on Twitch. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are wherever you get your podcasts. Now, to help us talk through the divisional round, we have got one man who is utterly insufferable and two who are in unimaginable suffering, and one of them is me. To start us off, if the saying is misery loves company, I suppose that means like me and Liam are betrothed. It's our resident cheesehead. Liam, how are you doing, mate?
I'm doing really well. Yes, good. Yes, it was some ways nice to just sit and watch games, not have to worry about anything this weekend. So I'll take that as a win. You know, that's where I'm looking at it. Looking at that's half full and all that.
That's it really hard. Never even wanted to be in the playoffs anyway.
Don't want that stress. That
What about my team having to potentially win something?
I know.
Losers. Aye. And well, right now this is one of those nights. Well, this is the reason why you need to watch us live. This is the reason why you need to be on the YouTube so you can witness the horror. I've not seen somebody dressed in this much red since the Flash. And I'm fairly certain he's not that quick. I just hope his team's Super Bowl chances end as quick. It is the one, the only studs. Right. Go on. You're going to have a man moment tonight. We might as well embrace it the new.
We'll save it for the review, but I'm all good, man. I am only wearing the hat because my afro is coming in, so I am trying to keep my hair flat as possible. I don't normally wear hats. It's literally just to keep the fro under control. But no, obviously I'm delighted, and I'm sure we'll get into why very, very shortly. But yeah, the Arrowhead Invitational is back after a 1-year hiatus. Could not resist it, but it is back, Brian. It is back. So the sixth Arrowhead Invitational is just around the corner and coming this weekend.
For the sake of like reference to everybody else who doesn't get the pleasure of being in our group chat, I think Studs waited for approximately 35 milliseconds until after that game was done, dusted, and sealed before he messaged telling us, specifically me, that the Arrowhead Invitational was back on. Oh man!
Absolutely. I did message Graham privately just to discuss the game. I didn't share that one in the group chat as a resident Celtic Texan, so I did offer my condolences privately on that one before I sent you that one.
just to be nice about it.
Absolutely.
Thoughts and prayers go out to Graham and everybody else that supports the Texans. And I suppose it's one place to start our review of all things divisional round. It was the big question of could the Texans, who have been up and down all season, they've had games where they have been absolutely on fire, and they've had games where they've been absolutely on fire. Just two very different ways of looking at the same thing. Up against the Chiefs, who, and I don't think this is unfair to say, they are probably the least convincing 15-2 team we've seen in the regular season. I'm not being my usual anti-Chiefs self. For a team pulling that record, the amount of one-score games, the amount of games that have been super tight, all the rest of it, there have been a lot of them, and it's not something we're really used to seeing with a team with a record that suggests they're that dominant. But for a game that only finished 14-23 to the Chiefs were dominant. And it's a game where I don't think, we will open this with you, Studs, give us the fans' opinion. Was there any point in that game when you were concerned?
I think
He's trying to think of a really polite way of saying no.
I feel, to be honest, I think our offense, Travis Kelce done what Travis Kelce does. He turns up in the playoffs. Let's be brutally honest. He normally he can probably find space in a phone box, but he didn't even need that luxury. He was just getting left wide open for Mahomes just to find them time and time again. The disappointing thing from a Chiefs perspective was the fact that Pacheco just did not look like himself at all. To be brutally honest, he's not looked right since he come back for the leg break, so I'm hoping it is just a rust thing. But to be honest, I think our defence was getting through so much to CJ Stroud that, I mean, you're looking at 14 QB hits, 8 sacks. George Karlaftis had 3 sacks on his own. The defence was just utterly dominating that offensive line for the most part. So, from that perspective, when the defence is doing that, you don't need Mahomes to be as magic as we've seen him in the playoffs. You just need him to produce little snippets. And you've seen that with like the Kelsey touchdown pass where he's getting tackled in the ankles, he's falling forward and he stumps out, still somehow manages to hit Kelsey square in the numbers. So you just needed those wee instances from him now and again. So I didn't think we were in any danger for the most part. And again, it was purely in the back of that defence again, just the way Chris Jones was causing all manners of havoc again, which is always nice to see.
Yeah, it's one, and I suppose this has been right, and this is the bit where, and we'll see if one of you two can jump in with the counterpoint to this, which this has been great fun on social media, going through some of this stuff, and then the immediate and very obvious counter comes out. One of the two teams that was playing in this game put up 336 total yards, the other put up 212. One had 18 first downs to the other's 14. One had a higher completion percentage, had very, very slightly lower yards per pass, had more rushing yards by 100 yards, well, 99, call it 100. But there was one vital stat, even rushing yards per attempt. One team had 5.1, the other team had 2.3. The loser in every single one of these comparisons is the Kansas City Chiefs. Every single one, the Texans outperformed the Chiefs. However, there is one brutal stat where you just look at it and you go, and that explains a lot. And it is, anyone? That was up to the audience. Come on.
Got to be penalties then, isn't it?
Penalties and sacks. Penalties, Texans, 8 penalties for 82. You don't give Kansas nearest damn it 100 free yards. Even if we look at it net and we take off Kansas's penalties off that, we say, right, on balance, you still gave Kansas City Chiefs, the Patrick Mahomes-led Kansas City Chiefs, near enough a free 60 odd yards. Can't do it. Sack totals similarly brutal. Yeah, I don't know. What were your big thoughts when you're looking at this from a Texans point of view, Liam? What do you see as the big message that Houston has to take away for this game?
I think it comes back to the sacks. I think what was it? I saw he had 5 sacks in the fourth quarter when you're not wanting to get sacked, like of all the times to do it. And it's been a kind of issue from when I've seen him play this all year, not being able to protect Stroud really. He's been running around trying to play a bit hero ball from time to time. And you just can't do that at this level now in the playoffs. You need to be able to protect your quarterback, give him time to make some plays. So yeah, I think it comes back to the penalties definitely, but yeah, the 8 sacks, it's 5 in the fourth quarter. It's not a way to try and win a game, at the end.
No, totally agree, and that is the thing. At the end of the day, the Texans line has been okay throughout the year. I don't think that's unfair. They've not been a great offensive line. They've not been a terrible offensive line. However, you can enjoy yourself, studs. The Chiefs' D-line played well. You know what I mean? And it's not even like you had one, random exceptional performance on the D-line. You had 3 sacks out of George Karlaftis. You had 1 out of Chamari Connor, 1 out of Charles Omenihu, 1 out of Chris Jones, 1 out of Felix. I'm not going to try and pronounce your surname because I will.
And the DK Uzamoa.
Thank you much, Lee. And 1 out of Sean Watson. It's coming from everywhere. These are the reasons. And here is a question for you, studs. See, when you see defensive performances like that, does this make you look at it and go, "Yes, we're going to lose Spags"?
No,
this is how not to say yes.
No, I don't think we are, because the jobs he's been interviewed for, you're looking at it and you're looking at, right, the Raiders, tyre fire, right, the Jets, absolute tyre fire. They're the two that he's been linked with. So I would be surprised if he goes there. I think we will lose him at some point. You look at the last 2 seasons and what he's done with that defence in particular have been absolutely unbelievable. So I do think he'll go at some point, but the jobs that are open this year, I don't see him leaving for those, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it's been weird he's not been linked to more in the past. It's not like last season, like, as you say, he's had so many good seasons. He's not really been linked with many that I've heard of in the years gone by, or as much as you think he would be. If how many Super Bowls have won, etc., you think he'd be right up there in the mix. I think it's a bit strange, actually, he's not been linked to more.
Yeah, I think with the enemy, you could understand why he was kind of getting overlooked for jobs, because everybody thinks it's Andy Reid's offense, that kind of thing. But this is clearly Spags' defense. He is the man that is controlling that side of the ball. We know Andy Reid's an offensive genius. He's obviously quite happy to kind of pass that off to Spags and trusts him to do what he's doing. So similar to what you're saying, Liam, I'm surprised he's not been linked to more in the past. I don't see the pull for the jobs that are there for Spags just now. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we've got Spags for at least another year.
We'll wait and see. I don't know. I will say, right, as a closing point on this game, and then we'll shift on. One of the big takeaways for me for the Kansas City side, you can just enjoy these compliments. I hate complimenting Kansas City as much as I'm doing tonight. This was a game that was a complete game. All 3 aspects of the game from Kansas were very, very good. Offense wasn't exceptional. Offense didn't need to be exceptional. Offense did enough to put up enough points in the first half that, they dropped 10 in the fourth quarter. But they had the lead going into the half. They never looked in danger of losing it. Special team, defense we talked about. Special teams was excellent. And they set the stall out on special teams from that opening kickoff return with the 60 whatever yards that it was that they got. And it's that indication that every part of this team's here to play. You've then also got the pressure that they put on kickers. And don't get me wrong, I've had great fun winding studs up. Their kick blocks are fluky and they're lucky, and they're not. You do something once inexplicably, it's fluky. See if you do it again and again and again. It's a well-coached, well-drilled unit that it's one of the bits. We don't talk a lot about special teams, but it is a bit that for the Chiefs, it's been an absolute highlight all year, because I'm trying to even think, because I think it's something like 3 blocked kicks or something you've got at least this year that I can think of.
Aye.
And then we've got things like those big returns. So it is that bit where we've got, do you know what, here's the closing question, right? And I know what your answer is, Stud. Do we have a lot's made about getting hot at the right time? I opened this whole segment saying that I thought the Chiefs were probably the least convincing 15-2 team, or team with that style of record that I can think of. Are we seeing the Chiefs get hot at exactly the right point in the season?
I think they might be. I think the main stat I'd take out of that is Kelsey. He's been a bit up and down all season, but he's, as you said, offense didn't have to do loads, but he still put up over 100 yards, a touchdown. If you're, Andy Reid be saving all these Kelsey plays for the playoffs just to let him loose, coming into the games that really matter, it's slightly worrying if he starts hitting some form, because you know what he can do, what he's done in the past. So yeah, I'm
having that as a prediction, by the way. I've called that. It's why I refuse to draft any Kelsey in any of my fantasy teams this year, because I've seen it coming. That Kelsey has been not completely wrapped up in cotton wool, but he's been a bit wrapped up in cotton wool all year. We've not seen him get utilised as heavily as we're used to, because now they are going to. I'll say it. This is studs. You might not like this. If the three-peat happens, Kelsey retires.
Yeah, I'm on that boat as well.
I thought you were against me on that one.
I think he retires if we do the three-peat as well. To be perfectly honest, especially because we've seen a bit of a rise in Noah Gray, so we'd be leaving it in sort of capable hands for that perspective. But no, exactly what you're saying. It's like the special teams this season for the Chiefs has probably been an under focused unit, to be honest, because it has been so good. Leo Chanel, I mean, when they had that block against the Broncos, similar story here, but on that day he'd focused on someone, they'd saw a weakness, they attacked it, he got through and got the block. It was the same thing here. You've seen Justin Reid in one of Fairbairn's early attempts. Can't remember if he scored it or if it was the first one that he missed, but Justin Reid he had the timing down from the centre because he used to play with the Texans. He knew the centres count and he was bang on the money and he almost blocked one earlier. He gets round again so quickly that the guy that's on Chanel has obviously been impacted and Chanel's managed to get that hand up again. So for me, they're finding little holes in defences and on special teams to pick at. And again, prior knowledge for Justin Reid and knowing that centre snap counts obviously helped him there, but it's just something that's probably not been as focused as much on the other teams this season and how good the Chiefs have been on that phase of the ball.
I hate you. I hate every part of you.
To be fair, I'm surprised you never brought up the refs. That's what everybody else is talking about.
No, do you know, right, so see, to address it briefly, I'm actually not really, I enjoy the wind-up. I enjoy the ref-related wind-up. I'm not really getting us in it, and I'm actually a wee bit disappointed in the Texans head coach coming out giving it. You know, we're playing against everyone, and I mean everyone.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, see if you're going to, and I've said this as a Scottish football fan, probably love a chat about a ref. At the end of the day, if you're leaving it up to the refs to make the decisions whether or not you win, you're already hooked. You're already stuffed. If you're putting yourself in a position, and yeah, don't get me wrong, there were some questionable calls. I don't think many folk disagree with that. The roughing the passer call in Mahomes, I think, was soft at best. Then, you know, we had other calls throughout the game. You know, Mahomes flipping and flopping about the places he's going out of bounds. You know, we don't like to see it, but at the end of the day, it's part of the game. It's not just Patrick Mahomes that does this. You can pick and choose pretty much every quarterback in the league, I'm going to say. You know, you stick it into YouTube, insert name here, flopping around, you'll find something. So, I get it. Texans fans are upset, and there's a lovely narrative with the Chiefs, you know what I mean? The refs love them and all the rest of it. And God, I love me a ref in red and white meme. But at the end of the day, the Texans are putting themselves in a position where if they're dependent on the refs to turn the game for them, that's not where you want to be. And it says a lot, unfortunately. If your head coach to come out saying that, that's a bit of a red flag for me.
Joe Mixon was worse than what
I have not seen his interview then.
He basically just says that it was the ref's faults, basically. So he's a lot stronger in his word than DeMeco Ryans, to be honest. I think DeMeco Ryans said it without explicitly saying it. Joe Mixon basically just says it.
No. Part of the shot that'll give you that. If you're finishing the game, 9 points off the pace. See if you lose by a field goal. Okay. And then there was a really controversial call that, you know, pushed you out a touchdown range or something like that. Okay, you can maybe have that. That's not what we're talking about here. You had plenty of opportunities to deal with this game yourself, and they didn't. And I'm sorry, I know it's frustrating, but that's the reality of this. Right, we're going to move on to, I'm going to say the fairy tale game of the weekend. I don't think that actually, as much as one team lost, I don't think there could be a loser for this game. We move across to the NFC. We had the Commanders playing the Lions. The Commanders walking away 45-31 victors in this one. And I do think this one was a wee bit of a fairy tale. Everybody's enjoyed watching both of these teams all year. The Lions for the narrative with Dan Campbell and all the rest has been fantastic to watch. And the Commanders coming this far with a rookie quarterback, particularly, Jaden Daniels, the way he plays, he's a great watch. It's been fantastic. And under the brightest lights, Jaden Daniels really stepped up, and Stafford had the light shining in his eyes the way he was turning that ball. So what were our big thoughts in this one, boys? What were some of the big takeaways that we had for this game?
Well, I think you kind of touched on it there with Goff. It was the turnovers. The turnovers, 3 interceptions, the fumble. It was weird. They kind of just started playing a bit hero ballish a wee bit. He had players open that he could have gone to. I think that was the pick six. He could have put it down someone and he threw it over him, and then
six was egregiously poor.
And then you're like, and I haven't really seen that from Goff. Like, give Goff his due all season. He's been playing the best he's ever played, probably. It was just a bit. It was a bit weird for him. Like, did they have an extra week too long to think about what they're going to do? Made it too complicated for themselves and just tried to do too much? I don't know.
Did they try and get too cute with it? So is that Ben Johnson? Do you know what I mean? Everybody's been loving their trick plays all season, and then they go to their trick play this time, and Jameson Williams gets picked off. And why does he not just throw it out of bounds? Do you know what I mean? That's got to be surely one of your decisions there. It's like, right, if this isn't on, put it out of bounds. We'll go to the next down.
Yeah.
Don't try and be that hero. It quite clearly wasn't a pass that was available to him. You're at the sideline.
This is exactly it, right? If we are charitable about it, you can forgive Goff his pick six, because at the end of the day, he is a top-tier quarterback. He can make outrageously good throws. He can put it in tight windows. We've seen him do it before. So him aiming at a tight window and going for it and then making a mess of it, okay, fine. Jameson Williams is not a quarterback. He should not be throwing it. What was it? I don't think it was double coverage. I think it was triple coverage. And he still went for it. You're like, no. There are times to try this nonsense. That was not the moment. It was not the time to do it. Meanwhile, we've got Jaden Daniels with his VR headset on, doing everybody over with. Just even then, I enjoy watching Jaden Daniels. And, during the game, he had 300 passing yards, couple of touchdowns, 50 yards in the ground. He is one of the questions, actually, that I've seen being talked about a lot after this game. Is the league moving to a place where you need to have a quarterback that's at least got aspects of being a dual threat to be successful? Are we moving away from the world where you could have Tom Brady, who, do you know what I mean? Like, Tom Brady was outran by old women, where he could just stand back in the pocket and he could just dictate the game from there. Patrick Mahomes scrambles about. Joe Burrow scrambles about a bit, not as much as other quarterbacks, but he does scramble about a bit. We all know about Lamar. We all know about Josh Allen. More about them later. We see it from Jaden Daniels. We see it from Jalen Hurts. We don't see it from Goff. And is that something that held his team back?
I don't know if it held them back, but it's like what the record they had all season. They were playing amazing. Their offense has been great all season, the Lions. But I know what you're kind of saying. It's kind of, so we're just in this cycle of, the defenses are trying to stop the big plays. They're sitting back, they're playing, their shells are playing a bit, they're dropping players back a bit, giving that space for the running quarterback to run into to some degree. Is that where we're at this stage? Are we just at this part of the cycle? Maybe we are. But I suppose we've had running, like I just said, Josh Allen and Lamar's been about how many years now, and they still haven't won a Super Bowl yet, have they? So I suppose you could argue that point.
one of them yet.
Well, that's the thing. It's you're looking at it, right, and from a Detroit perspective, they still had over 500 yards total, right? the Commanders had almost 500 yards, so it was still the two teams were moving the ball on each other. The key for this game wasn't Jared Goff sitting in the pocket and making passes or being able to scramble. The key was the turnovers. Detroit had 3 and the Commanders were clean. That was the key to this game. So I think it depends on your weightings to answer your question, Brian, and the fact that you look at the Lions, right? They've got Sonic and Knuckles, they've got Gibbs and Montgomery there. They have got 2 rating balls in the grounds. They've got Amon-Ra, they've got Laporta, they've got Williams. They've got the weightings in the receiving game. Goff doesn't need to run about. Lamar Jackson has got Derrick Henry, right? That's fine. He's got Zay Flowers. He's got Mark Andrews. He's not got as many weapons. Justice Hill, all right. Justice Hill's been okay this year for the Ravens as well, but it doesn't have as many weapons. Josh Allen has pretty much got rookie weapons run about him for the most part, other than James Cook, who's second year in the league. So he's expected to kind of probably take a bit of that load on his back. Jaden Daniels is a rookie himself. He's learning the league. He has got experience running about. But again, if you're comparing weapons for the Commanders to the Lions, you take the Lions' weapons all day. And again, it's no disrespect to guys like Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, guys like that. But the amount of weapons the Lions have got is far superior to the amount of weapons the Commanders have got. So Jaden Daniels gives them that extra weapon. So I think it really depends on what your team build is. What weapons have you got? Do you need that quarterback to maybe take a little bit of the load off? And again, you're looking the same at the Bengals as well. Burrow doesn't need to scramble. He does it as a last resort.
Well, okay, you've taken what I hope was going to be quite a controversial point and made it quite sensible. So, frankly, screw the pair of you. Right, on to what I'm going to kind of hold up is probably the last point in this with this game before we move on to the Sunday night fixtures. Was this, and this is where I love a fairy tale with the Commanders, and it is a fairy tale. You know, rookie quarterback, 1 game away for the big dance, fabulous. The Lions have been battling it out all year, putting up amazing games, but one of the other stories that's been following the Lions all year has been, how are they still doing this with all of these injuries, particularly on defense? Did we see the culmination of that on Saturday night, where at the end of the day, we've talked about how electric and incredible their offense is. We know that. And yes, as you quite rightly poked the holes in my little probing question, that even though Goff didn't rush much, he still chucked it for 300 yards. Is it a case, though, where the Lions defense couldn't buy a stop, and they are or have been down so many players, and they lost, and I can't find the name of who went off in the second quarter of one of the Lions' D-line went off hurt. Is this just a case where they did their best, but injuries catch up with us all occasionally?
I think it's definitely, as you say, it's been a narrative all season about them playing through it and not being affecting them, and they just next man up and all that mentality.
And it was, sorry, I've just found it. It wasn't the D-line. It was Amik Robertson, something that broke his arm early on in the game. So they lost another piece from the second.
Yeah, they've had
where I picked that defense, it was going to be another piece regardless.
And it's not exactly, and it's always big injuries as well, you know. So they've had horrendous luck all season long. But I suppose the coaches probably wouldn't use that. They've been saying all season it's not an excuse. You know, they've been saying it's this next man up, which I know they're going to say, but I don't know. Like, you think, as you say, they still scored 31 points. You know, they scored enough points to win the game. It is again starting to come back to stats. It was just all about the turnovers. So they just couldn't. If they had a clean game, you know, they would have won that game. Still, even with Daniels, I think doing what he's doing, I still think the Lions would have won that. Because they were able to move the ball when they wanted to, even though they were giving up points. It's kind of been they've just been doing that. That's been kind of the mantra all season. They just will score as many points as they can, like obviously, but you know, they'll try and get a big score, a big lead, and that's what they've been trying to do all season long. And it's just the way they're about to play at the moment. So I suppose maybe they've been forced into it because they've got so many injuries. That's what they've got to do. So, but yeah. suppose they always say defenses win championships. Maybe that's a summary of it. They've not got the players to do it because they're all injured.
They're all on iron.
No, just kind of echoed William saying that. I kind of made the point on the preview crew in the Friday night. I thought that the injuries would catch up with them here, and that was kind of why I leaned towards the Commanders with the Celtic Tex and the two years actually picked the Commanders for the upset in this one.
Fair play on that, by the way, because talk about taking I would have liked. I didn't check the odds actually before the game. I wish I did now, because the Lions must have been reasonably heavily favoured for that game. You went against the Wisdom.
I think the Chiefs were the highest on the spread. I think they were 9.5, which they ruined the bookies with the safety at the end, which was quite amusing. But I then think it was the Lions after that were the highest. Well, I think they were in about the 8-point favourites. But it was, and that was why I kind of went with the Commanders, was purely because of the injuries on that defensive side. It's got to catch up with you at some point. You hear all the guys, your Jason Kelce's and all that, talking through the season, and it's like you're getting banged up throughout the season. You're going into the playoffs and you're banged up. If 20 odds or something like that are on your injury report from your 52-man squad and you're pulling guys in off the practice squad constantly, it's just not going to be feasible to keep lasting. It is going to catch up with you at some point, and then, unfortunately for the Lions, it was Saturday night for us.
Yep. And that is it, because at the end of the day, yep, we've got big practice squads to pull from, and I don't mean this in a nasty way, even though it will sound that way. There's a reason these guys are practice squad players. They're not going to be able to step in. Right, before we move on to the second last game of the weekend, a hello to Swifty Spin. Nice to see you joining us on YouTube. And even though you're a Chiefs fan, I'll forgive you. And Studs will doubtless send you his phone number or something later. Right. Okay. I sat ping you just heard with Studs' missus saying you better not be giving out your phone number. Right. Moving on. I have no idea what's going on. We move on to the Rams playing the Eagles. This was a crack. I actually really enjoyed all four of these games, and I don't like to rag on games, but we did kind of do it off here before we came on. The wild card round was it wasn't what we were hoping for.
Dreich is how I described it.
Dreich's a great way to describe it, actually. It was Dreich. It was a bit, yeah. There was really only one really good game. And it was the Bucks, the Commanders Bucks game. The rest of them were a bit, yeah. These were four really good games for different reasons, but they were four really good games. So, we've got the Rams playing the Eagles. The Rams coming up short, 22 to the Eagles, 28. And again, do you know what? Every bit of coverage I've heard over this game has left this to like one of the last things that they talk about. And I refuse to be one of those people. Saquon should be MVP. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with it being a quarterback award. And I know that they finished voting last weekend or something. Saquon should be MVP. Right, I'm going to... Right, this is what I can't get my head around. So, the Eagles, as I quickly check it, put up, in total, 128 receiving yards and 285 yards on the ground. So, 413 yards all told, right? Saquon put up 205 on the ground and 27 in the air. Say, of the 413 offensive yards the Eagles managed, Saquon was 235 of them. He was over half of the total offense at running back. This isn't a freak performance. He's been doing this all year. The man should be MVP. I'm going to assume everybody joins me in just the loving watching Saquon, both on Sunday night and throughout the year, as much as Studs hopes he breaks a leg between now and the Super Bowl.
Listen, he's been unreal this year, and his two breakaway runs, which made up probably about 140 of his rushing yards, right? Because they must have been about 70 yards each, the two of them. they were unreal. The first one in particular, I think, because there was less snow on the ground at that point. The second one, maybe guys were losing their footing as the snow get thicker. I'm not 100% sure, but it's still, what he done was unbelievable. He took the team on his back. Jalen Hurts obviously got hurt. His knee got quite kind of badly twisted in one of the tackles in this one. And then you've got Nick Sirianni asking him to drop back into the end zone for a pass just shortly after when they get taken down for the safety, which just seemed bizarre. But Saquon Barkley literally took the load for Philadelphia in this one, to be honest. So he was just unbelievable. It is just a shame that the MVP voting is only a regular season one. If it did factor in playoffs, then I think you would see very different results on that front. So he's just unbelievable.
He's running just like, and it's I'm not going to rag on the Giants because they're irrelevant. But the Giants let them go. You know what I mean? And here's one, and I just wanted to check this quickly. So I've just found that Saquon, for everything he produces, is walking away. Hang on a minute till I find the total. Jesus. And do you know what his base salary is this year?
It's like 12 million or something like that, or I don't know what his base is.
Now,
this is
12 or something. According, so his total cap hit for this season, 6.5 million. 6.5 million total cap. His base salary per sport track is 1.17 million.
What?
That's it. It's insane. And yeah,
is it not like a 20 million deal for like a couple of seasons though? So is it maybe backloaded or something like that?
Yeah, it is.
The base at really, million's crazy.
Aye, it really, it does. You're absolutely right. It's the old cap black magic. 2027, he's got a cap hit of 19 million.
Aye,
but still, even taking that all in, you know what I mean? The total contract is worth. Call it 38 million, right? It's just shy of 38 million for a 3-year deal. That is that money for the level of offensive weapon that Saquon has been this year, and there's no reason to think he wouldn't be it again next year, is wild. You know what I mean? The fact the guy doesn't get paid wide receiver money is insane. On the other side of the ball, we had a good showing from Stafford. He put 324 yards up. And for me, I don't know how you viewed this one. This was, I will say this was actually the only game of it. And, all of the games had weather. This was the only game where I was watching it thinking the weather's having a proper impact on this. Yeah, and the amount of things where, like, Puka, the ball just flying clean through his hands, drops and things like that. If you're playing, we'll talk about drops in the next game. Drops of players you wouldn't expect. It's one where, for me, this goes back to the point about Saquon being this big difference maker. Him being able to put the numbers he put up in the ground. Kyren Williams put up 106 yards on the ground on 19 attempts. Any other day, that is a perfectly respectable day for your lead back. You get your lead back going over 100, you're a happy fan. He pales into insignificance when he's next to that caliber of ground attack. So, I suppose here's my question, right? I'm going to put you in the spot, Studs. Can you stop Saquon? Because at the end of the day, if we go forward to the Super Bowl no one wants, and it's the Chiefs Eagles, Spags is amazing. We've sang Spags' praises endlessly. Do you have enough to actually stop a player of Saquon's caliber?
I think we do. The reason being is, again, that defensive line, for the most part of the season, albeit I think Mixon had like 100 yards on us on Saturday night, fair do to him. But I think for the most part of the season, our offensive line has stopped the run. We've been a bit banged up in the secondary outside of Trent McDuffie this year, so I think there are ways to stop it. Obviously, the passing attack has been the question for the Eagles this year. It really has. So it's then up to Spags to try and figure out a way to stop Barkley. And similar to what teams used to do with Lamar, force him to beat you through the air. If Jalen Hurts then beats you through there, then you go right, hands up. But he's coming up against obviously one of the top cornerbacks in the league next weekend, Marshall Lattimore, who, well, I don't know, he'll probably go between Smith and Brown, but if the Commanders can force him to try and utilise that passing attack, could you see a different game? I think you could, to be honest, but might be an interesting one. I think the NFC will be a closer game than people are expecting.
That's one for yourself, then, because it's an interesting point, that because the Eagles' passing attack has been poor. You know what I mean? It has. The Eagles have been winning games on the ground off the back of Saquon all year. And Jalen Hurts, as much as I'm a mad fan of just saying Jalen Hurts is just a guy. He, you know, on the ground he is very, very good. He get banged up. His knee get banged up. He was out. He was giving it kind of. I don't know. I took his post match as quite cagey. You know what I mean? He started out with we'll see how we do. We'll see how the week goes. And then, at the end of it, he was quite firm. No, I expect to be playing and all the rest of it. If he plays, we'll assume he's going to play. You know, it's going to take a serious problem for him not to play in the championship game. But his knee's not quite what it should be, and he needs to pass it more. Jesus, we've seen AJ Brown taking to reading breaks during games over the past couple of weeks. Do the Eagles have enough in that passing attack? Not even to get themselves, not even to beat the Chiefs, to get themselves to the Chiefs?
I think that's what Studs was even alluding to. Like, that's what you're going to be doing. The Commanders are going to be doing. They're going to be daring them to throw the ball. They'll be stacking that box, trying to stop Barkley, and you say Hurts. He definitely didn't look comfortable in this game. The second half, you know, say that safety, like when he dropped back, like why are you doing that? Trying to get him to move around because he just couldn't move. You know, it's just going to be like, right, we're going to stack the box. We'll make you try and throw it or run yourself. We're going to see what your knees are, you know, what's up with your knees really, and see what you can do. And it's been the problems like last week against the Packers. Their passing game wasn't good either. But then you still got AJ Brown on the other side to catch the ball, so you know it's not a bad weapon to throw it to. But that's what I kind of wrote down from the keys. The Hurts injury, how's it going to go after this? And basically, it's going to be on their defense and Barkley to win this for them. Ultimately, win next week and win the week after. That's that's the formula for them to win. Get their defense to. They've got two fumbles this week. Get some more plays this week. Keep Barkley with the big breakout runs, and that's your formula. Leave Hurts to just game manage, I suppose, because he's going to have to do because I don't think he's going to be fit at all. Even if he will play, but he's definitely nowhere. You know, if it wasn't a playoff game, would he play? Yeah, that's probably the question more likely.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's going to be a very interesting one, particularly. Although, do you know what? I say that, and to be fair to the Philadelphia and the receiving core, the weather did have an impact. So it was at least one of it. I think AJ Brown had 3 drops, and there was at least one where it was clearly the ball was just slippy as all hell. It's Hannah. So I do think, you know, some better weather. We will hopefully see a wee bit of a better receiving performance out of Philadelphia. Right, okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Instead, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, on you go. Oh, Jesus.
Just before you go to the next one, I just want to talk about Jared Verse. I don't know if you've seen him game going around the Philadelphia fans, and they'd obviously had the massive tweet where they said they hated Philadelphia fans.
What a diddy.
See, to be fair, you're saying that. Fair play to him, he backed it up. He had a great game. So I was looking at his stats. So he had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, and 2 quarterback hits. He done what he could for the Rams, to be fair. And Liam obviously alluded to it again, the turnovers. So Philadelphia had a clean game overall. They had no turnovers, whereas the Rams had the 2. But fair play to him calling out the Eagles fans and having the balls to do it, because they backed it up as well, though.
I did like
He's at it.
That's a rookie, by the way.
Did you see the video of Barkley running in and Verse chasing after him, and Barkley just looking around at one point? So like, There you are.
He slowed down as well. That was the best. If it slows down as if to kind of say, right, come on in.
Back in your box, son. Back in your box. No, I am 110% not a fan of this type of caper before a game. You see, if you have a great game and you win and you want to start to go in the lineup, you charge right on before the game's said and done. Nope. Right, okay, we are going to move on. Right, we're going to move on to the final game of the weekend. Before we do, a hello to Your Name, You'll Know, who, and I'm intrigued by this, was handed one of our fabulous Irn-Cru business cards, which you may find yourself getting handed. He was handed it by stealth, which does make me worry that, like, Keith's cutting about Buchanan Street, like reverse pickpocketing folk. So yes, he was handed one of the business cards, and he's another Chiefs fan. So Studs, you lot are coming out of the woodwork tonight. This is why everybody should be a Browns fan. You should all just suffer with me. Yes, but it's great to have you listening in, mate. I hope you're enjoying the show. Right, moving on. It was a final game. Talking about something as a Browns fan I can take some joy out of. Misery in Baltimore. So it was the final game of the weekend. We had the Ravens squaring up against the Bills. It was MVP 1 v MVP 2. And again, interesting bits, as you were referencing earlier, Studs, if MVP voting continued into the off-season, into the playoffs, sorry. Doing it in the off-season would seem hard. Into the playoffs, this would have been seen as the battle of the two MVP candidates. So, yeah, we had Lamar Jackson squaring up against Josh Allen, and it came down to 2 points. It came down, and again, lots of places have been leaving this to last week. We're opening with it, boys. It came down to 2 points that the Ravens should have had. Mark Andrews, he had two fumbles on the night. Well, not two fumbles, 2 drops on the night. The first one, I'm willing to forgive him. First one, when it gets blown out, it's a wet, slick, slippy ball. He does take a tackle. However, when it mattered most, they are going for 2 to tie it up, take it to maybe overtime, give Josh Allen a minute and a bit or something to strike back. He was hit. Lamar hit Andrews properly. Andrews was going down. He's trying to make it hard for him to get tackled. Lamar hits him, and he just does not bring it in. Mark Andrews has had a very choppy season. Have we seen the end of Mark Andrews as a Baltimore Raven?
I don't know. I think that's maybe stretching a bit much, but he kind of started. I know he's had a bit of an up-down season, I suppose. But yeah, you had that car crash at the start of the year, or whatever it was that you kind of before the season, wasn't it? So obviously, who knows how actually injured he was from it. And he came on to quite a good game. You know, coming to the end of the season, I kind of thought overall. But yeah, that ends the dropping that ball in the end zone. It was weird. Like when I watched it back, you see how he kind of as he's trying to fall, like as if he's trying to protect himself from something. I was like, but he just needs to catch it. He doesn't need to run. He just needs to catch it and just stay up. Or like I was like, as a slippery surface, he's just trying to be a bit cuter about how to land or something like that. I don't know. It was kind of a bit weird. I suppose it's easy to say in a super slow motion when you watch it, but that'll be hunting him for ever, shall we say?
Aye, he's not done any press conferences the last 2 days, so he is obviously taking it pretty hard on himself. But I don't think we've seen the end of him. I think exactly what Liam said there, Brian. You're looking at a guy that was involved in a car crash at the start of the season, obviously come into the season not fully fit, and then they kind of kicked on sort of halfway point of the season and onwards. I think the more interesting question, and I kind of put this to Mikey, half in jest, half serious, to be honest, but is there a time where you talk about the Ravens being perennial bottle merchants in the playoffs, which I know will be music to your ears, but they've got here so many times and they've won the regular season so many times. They've been one of the best teams to watch in the regular season, one of the best teams to watch this regular season despite their record. And I do get that it was the number 2 and number 3 seeds that were playing here today, but still, when are they going to go over that hump? Is it a Harbaugh issue? Is it a Lamar issue? What is going on really here? Because they just can't get by into the big dance, if you like.
It's a great question because it's something that we've heard so much about the Bills. You know, you brought up about Bills every year, and I do believe it's you that brings it up.
Hopefully, I'll be bringing it up this weekend.
It gets well. Wait and see. But it's a fair comment because at the end of the day, if you are consistently in the playoffs and you are consistently losing, it is something that's going to be asked. You know, particularly for me. I mean, I swiddled about this all year, but by the time the regular season closed out, if I'm voting MVP and I'm accepting that it's turned into a quarterback award, I'm voting Lamar. I think Lamar had a better regular season than Josh Allen. They both put up great numbers. And yeah, we've had kind of conversations about, I do raise questions about the quality of Josh Allen's surrounding cast. That's why I understand people that say they would go for Josh Allen. But I think Lamar's just been superior in most aspects of the game. And even on Sunday night, Lamar put up 254 yards through the air. He ran for 39. And Josh Allen only put up 127 through the air and ran for 20. So Lamar, strictly speaking, played the better game than Josh Allen. But he lost. And this is the bit where it does come down to, it's all these intangibles. It's all this stuff of everything else that's going on. And I'm, without being funny, I don't really think you'd walk through much of the Bills team and say, I would take that player into the Ravens and, do a swap position for position. I think pretty much everywhere, certainly on offense, you would have the Ravens team to a man over who the Bills are running with. But there was those those mental errors. And it is the bit where a lot of people have been saying it, and I find it really hard to disagree with it. I wonder how you two feel about it. It's tricky to say that Buffalo won. The Ravens certainly lost. But I don't really think you can say that Buffalo went out and gave Baltimore a doing. I honestly think that the Ravens, the couple of really critical mental errors that saying handed somebody a win in the playoffs is a bit much. I don't really think you can hand many folk a win at that point in the season, but it's about as close as you're going to see.
Yeah, well, I think you're saying how Jackson, possibly Lamar had the better game, but then, as you're kind of alluding to, he still had the interception, he had the fumble, and Allen had, he was clean this week. And that's what it comes down to. Often, we've talked about in the previous games about, the turnovers, those two plays are critical, to give either momentum or points. Like Bills scored after the fumble, Bills scored a touchdown after that. So you're just making it hard on yourself. Those mental errors. Okay, the good plays by, it's a good rush to get Lamar to fumble it. Good plays for the Bills, give them some credit. But ultimately, it's these small wee bits that's just changing the game, and it's what it comes down to in player football. In some ways, it should come down to that, because there should be two good teams going after each other. And yeah, as you say, the Ravens probably lost it themselves because of those plays and the, dropping that, obviously the Mark Andrews drop, sort of thing. So yeah, Bills had the cleaner game, so they come out with a win, and it's maybe oversimplifies it, but that's basically kind of the summary of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that absolutely hits it in the head, Liam. That's the thing. It does come down to very small, very fine margins in the playoffs. It always does. Every single year, whether it's a walk-off field goal, it's owning that time of possession. It is very, very small margins. And ultimately, there was only one game this weekend that didn't have a turnover in it, and it was the Chiefs and Texans. They had 0 turnovers on either side of the ball. Every other game, the team that lost the turnover battle. So exactly what you're saying, Brian. Did the Ravens beat themselves? Absolutely they did. They had 3 turnovers. Lamar Jackson's interception was horrific. His fumble was horrendous. Mark Andrews' fumble was horrendous. It was exactly what Liam says. It was mental errors. And you've seen that in Lamar Jackson's press conference after the game, where he took absolute ownership of his 2 errors. He said that he misread the safety of his pick. He needs to take better care of the ball. On his fumble, his arms are way out to the right. It's not even as if it's tucked in next to the body. His arms are way out for the body with the ball. He is not protecting that ball in the slightest. So it is total mental errors. for the Ravens side of the ball, and they absolutely cost themselves in this game. I mean, they had like 400 odd yards in total offense. The Bills just under 300. So similar to the Texans, that outgained their opponents by over 100 yards. Sorry, but yeah, they still lost.
This is it's one of my favourite wee statistical bits for the weekend. You kind of led into it. Every single team that lost at the weekend lost the turnover battle. Equally, every single team that lost at the weekend produced more yards than their opponents. They won the yardage battle.
Except the Texans, they didn't lose the turnover battle.
But you know, they won well. Depends how you want to look at it, because they did have one fumble that they recovered.
So did we. The opening kickoff. Opening kickoff, we had a fumble, but we recovered.
Right, okay. Well, they lost all Drew. The turnover battle. So always that one guy. But yeah, they were throwing up the stuff on offense. So yeah, it's one. Do you know what I will say as well? This is rare. I feel bad for Lamar. I actually really like Lamar as a player. I think he's great to watch. I feel bad for him because he's post-match presser. That is going to be snipped and cut and used to beat him for ages. Yeah. There's so many bits in it. And if you listen to the whole thing, it's exactly what Stud says. He's taking ownership. He's putting it in his own shoulders and all the rest of it. But then there was that one bit, I think it's towards, I can't remember if it was the middle or the end of it, where he's, and it's these fumbles and drops, we're getting sick of it, man. We can't be doing that all the time. And that's just, it's already happening. I've already seen clips in my socials where people are just snipping that bit, and it's Lamar drags all of his receivers through the mud. You're like, no, if you actually listen to the full thing, it's not what he's doing. But it's a tough one for the Ravens. It's a tough one. It's for all four. And this is, I suppose, is what means. Here you go. Here's my takeaway to wind the show up, boys. This is, I think, what makes it such a good divisional round, is that all four of the losing teams feel maybe not hard done by, but they feel that they've lost. They don't, it's not like you went and you were just, okay, you were just clearly better this week. You absolutely hosed us. We were never going to be able to lay a glove on you. There's so many things that all four, the Texans, the Lions, the Rams, the Ravens, all of them will look back at those games and say, we did that. We made that mistake. We didn't do this thing. And I don't know, if I'm on a losing side of something and I can turn around and look and say, no, do you know what? You guys were just so much better than us. I don't actually think even at our best we would have you. None of those divisional teams had that. And for me, I'm going to say that's what made the divisional round so entertaining for me. That's one of the reasons I think it was so good.
I think you're totally right. I think, listen, they're going to say it's the best weekend of football, don't they? That's what they always claim. And you say it's those small margins that win or lose your game. So ultimately, yeah, I totally think you're right. I think there'll be, I'm sure all the losing teams, fan podcasts will be all their if, buts, and maybes all the way through. If we didn't do this, didn't do that, we'd have driven down the field, we'd have got that score, got those 3 points, whatever it may be, and changed the game, and changed that momentum and all that sort of chat. So yeah, totally makes it exciting, having these games that are close. You're right, and competitive. That's what you kind of want to see at this stage of the season. You want competitive games. You want teams going after each other. Whether it is offense or defense. Both sides of the ball, or touching on special teams. All sides of the ball going after each other to try and get these wins, get that get to the next round, get to Super Bowl. So yeah, it's definitely, it can only be good for the NFL to have that sort of advertisement and all that sort of jazz.
No, definitely. It's everybody talks about it being their favourite weekend in the NFL calendar, and it's for exactly that reason, because it is close games. Obviously, you want your team to be there. You want your team to get onto the championship round. But as it's the small margins, as I've mentioned, obviously talked about that Ravens-Bills game, but it was small margins all the way through for the most part, and it's whether it's your blocker in your offensive line and keep your quarterback clean, or whether it's the horrific turnovers. It's all things that can be fixed for these teams. So if you are a losing team, it's maybe no all doom and gloom. It should be a case of, right, this is where we need to build for next season and try and take the next step to get to the championship game and potentially onto the Super Bowl.
On the notion of things that are building and moving on, we're not going to talk about this long. I've just seen it pop up on my feed. Kevin O'Connell's just signed up with a multi-year contract with the Vikes. I'm shocked to hear this news. Least surprising headline of the week.
I think that was always in the cards that he was going to re-sign, let's be honest.
I think Kev knew he was onto a job there somehow. I think he knew his job security was all right.
Coach of the year elect, I think, in many folks' eyes.
Do you know? There's a shout. It's actually, would anybody be shocked at that?
Nah, consider what he's done with Darnold.
Yeah, consider what he did with Sam Darnold. Right, okay, boys. That is going to call it a close for the evening. So that brings our review of all things divisional round football to a close, everybody. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you to the crew for joining me. Remember, you're going to have your championship of the English. What great production value. You're going to have our championship preview crew to look forward to. I'm being great at the speaking like you would think I hosted a podcast. Coming up for you later in the week. All it remains for me to say is, Liam, thank you very much for joining me tonight, mate.
No, thank you. Always a pleasure. Always good to chat about.
Studs, I hope your next weekend's crap, but thank you very much for joining me as well, mate.
No worries, mate. And, I'll just end it on this note. How about those Chiefs?
Oh, I hate you, but I love you as well. Okay. Remember, everybody, you can keep in touch with the crew. You can find us on X at Irn-Cru. We are on Insta at grid_iron_crew. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Help grow the community. Get in touch. You've heard me talk to a couple of guys that have been messaging us tonight. You can be one of those people too. Chuck questions our way. Let us know what you want to hear us talking about on the crew. And with all that said, 2 more weekends left, guys. We're nearly at the big dance.